Don't shoot the messenger.
That's right, and welcome back to another episode, actually, final episode of the season of Don't Shoot the Messenger. As always, I am Chris Diggins with my cohort,
Jinx, just Jinx.
And we have
and don't you forget it.
Don't you forget it. We have a special episode today, I think.
I think it's special just because of the timing.
Because of the timing, we are going to be going into Martin Luther King Jr. And really, what happened there?
Yeah, and was the conspiracy
in Memphis.
What happened with is there really a conspiracy there? I mean, obviously there's a theory that the King family brought to court with, saying that the government and mafia and all sorts of entities, CIA, FBI, were all involved with the Martin Luther King assassination, and James Earl Ray. Sorry, not James Earl Jones. He had nothing to do with it, as far as I know. Mufasa is innocent.
Darth Vader had nothing to do with.
Yeah, Darth Vader. Darth Vader is in charge of a lot of atrocities. This is not one that he's responsible for. But James Earl Ray, the King family maintains that he was innocent. Ray maintained his innocence, taking back his guilty plea, and they say he was just a scapegoat for everybody else. Which
has been a common theme, at least when it comes to assassinations in U.S. history. I believe. Oh, what's his name? I can't blank.
JFK?
Yeah, no, JFK.
Robert F. Kennedy?
No, who was JFK's?
A non-Kennedy? What?
Assassinator.
The assassin for him would be Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald actually claimed innocence, I think, up until trial when he was like, yeah, I did it.
So who knows why? They're saying there's a quote by one of the people that wrote a book about the whole thing, saying basically a 10-cent white boy would not have been able to kill $1 million black man. Would not have had the capacity to do that. And that's almost a direct quote. I'm probably paraphrasing a little bit, but.
Well, I'm going to, kind of lay it out for you guys. Exactly what happened is it was Memphis, April 4th, 1968, when Dr. Martin Luther King was shot in the head outside of his motel room.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, at this time he was at the height of the civil rights movement. And so a lot of people actually took, they said that it was James Earl Ray, who the authorities claimed that was the shooter. And as we stated, he claimed his innocence and whatnot. But there's a lot of belief that, like you said earlier, it was CIA, the FBI, the actual presidential office, and the mafia involved in the assassination because he was caught, let's say, making a little bit too much noise for them.
And they're saying, just a year before, exactly to the day, he had been involved with something that caused them to come into with the Vietnam War, repudiating it a year before that. So that's how he got on President Johnson's bad side. And that was just the year prior. And
the March on Washington as well. And
yep. And you take all this stuff into account. Maybe the date that they chose to assassinate him on was also coincide to sending a message to other people that were trying to speak out against Vietnam War and all that to try and stop those protests.
But he was also, it was just the fact that he was a very powerful voice at that time speaking against it.
Yes, I mean, even today his voice is powerful. People still use his speeches and his words. So
but
imagine
he's not alive.
how.
I'm just saying a live person at that time.
I'm just
going
imagine how much more powerful that must have been when he was still alive and speaking out to people and going out to rallies and stuff. I mean, look at the power Trump has with his words right now in his rallies. I mean, think about that in the reverse, basically, is what, in a good way, not a bad way.
I'm a firm believer in that most assassinations throughout history, whether it be government or all types of people who have been just assassinated, musicians, government, stuff like that. There's more to it than what is told to us, I guess you would say, by the media. And definitely in Martin Luther King, I totally 100% believe that the government probably did have a lot to do with this based on the fact that like I said, he was making too much noise. This is a guy who was bringing up a race of people, being like, "You're worth more than they're telling you." That's bringing people out of line, I guess you would say, in the government's eye.
And what they were comfortable with. And what's interesting is that when this went to the court case in '99, they won the civil case of this. So they only went for $100 because they wanted to say that this was not about money. They just wanted to prove the truth that James Earl Ray was innocent and that there was a government conspiracy behind his death. They won that court case. Now then it goes to the Department of Justice and the committee there, and they ruled, of course, that there wasn't enough evidence, that there was not enough presented to...
it only took 2.5 hours to reach a verdict in the criminal case.
Yeah.
Which it took almost 2 days for them to reach a verdict in the civil.
Yeah, a lot more information going through there, But yet they claimed, the DOJ, that there wasn't enough information from both sides to confirm or deny what their claims. And so they said, oh, no, there's no conspiracy here. There's nothing going on. But that's the government saying that. Whereas the judicial system said, nope, definitely something is suspicious enough that there's reasonable doubt that not reasonable doubt that, no, there was a conspiracy. And then you have the DOJ saying, oh, no, there's not enough information. Of course, the government's going to say that. If they're involved in it, they're going to cover it up. And that's how it goes. You're going to cover your tracks, because if you have the people all of a sudden realizing, oh, they were shady enough to do that back then, what else is going on now? What other underhanded stuff? So this is one conspiracy I think I can get behind a little bit. There's, to me, a lot of information that feeds into it.
Yeah, they were, so according to several police officers who were guarding Martin Luther King, they said that they were actually pulled from their posts right before the assassination. And these are police officers who actually have gone on record saying that they were told to leave their post right before the assassination happened. So I'm sorry, if you're a guy who's trying to assassinate, you're not going to have that much pull.
Yeah, to get one guy that was poor, he was not rich or anything by any means, is not going to have that kind of pull, be able to pay people off, orchestrate that to begin with. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, he wasn't like a super intelligent guy either. And then the claims of the people that were there when he was shot, they said the shots came from a totally different direction. Like they were, as James Earl Ray, they were saying it was coming from the window of the boarding house that he was at. Whereas they were saying, no, it was coming from some bushes lower down. They were off to the side, not from the same direction that they claim. There's several different directions.
The grassy knolls.
Yes. Now there is, yes, of course, there's those magic bullets then. They must have had some really different powers back in the 60s with those bullets. There's also the Jowers, the guy who also joined the Kings in their claim. One of the suspicious things with him is that his sister came forward saying that, or admitted that he had fabricated the story so he can make $300 or $300,000 from selling his story. So she did claim that, and that she backed him up and corroborated his story in order to get money to help pay her income taxes. So that makes his part of it suspicious. And, his claims. So you got to wonder a little bit about there and how much maybe his sister was trying to get more money by coming forward with that information to get more airtime. So maybe she needed money, and that's why she claims that her brother was fabricating everything.
Well, and here's also a thing is, wouldn't you think this would just be handled by the Memphis PD? Like, I get it. He is a very person of high stature in the community and throughout the United States, but he was killed in Memphis, so shouldn't Memphis PD have only been able to handle this case? This is not something that the government had any right to
be involved in.
Themselves in. Well, FBI involved themselves in this, and still to this day have not released any of their findings or information about it.
Yeah, and now Jowers also, he inconsistently identified different people as the assassin. Since 1993, he had alternatively claimed that the shooter was possibly an African-American man who was on South Main Street the night of the assassination. There's also a man named Raul and a white lieutenant with the Memphis Police Department, and then another person whom he said he didn't recognize. So he didn't claim or who that person was. They were just some suspicious person. But so it's 4 different people that he at different times tried to claim could be the possible shooter. So he didn't, even though he was supposedly involved in the conspiracy against King, or he still didn't know who was the actual shooter. So there is a little bit of suspiciousness and, iffiness in that department as far as Jowers is concerned.
So in 79, the House of Representatives did their own investigation on it, and the conclusion that they came out with and released to the media is that James Earl Ray was probably acting as a for-hire basis on that. And that goes back to you saying that he wanted to sell his story.
Yeah, with Jowers wanting to sell his story, not James Earl Ray.
Sorry.
Jowers was the one wanting to sell his story, not James Earl Ray.
Apologize.
But yes.
Yes. So it's just really funny how, he was a scapegoat. I mean, it really seems like he was. Like, he's sitting there going, I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to do with this. And now you have the House of Representatives being like, no, he did it.
Yeah.
And the FBI not releasing any information. I go, nope, he did it.
It's sure people will say, well, he pled guilty right away, and claimed he did. Well, if you're getting a lot of pressure from FBI agents and CIA agents that know where your family is, know where you're from, even if you get free, they can come after you afterwards and threaten you. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going
if the government comes down on you with full force, you're going to kind of have to comply. I mean, that's it. You don't want to ruin the rest of your family.
And once he was in jail, he could come forward and say he was innocent. But
who's going to believe you?
They're not. And if they tried to kill him and attack him while he was in jail, then it looks suspicious. If they try to get rid of him. So of course that feeds into it. I think most people believe that there was some sort of conspiracy involving JFK. I think a lot of people don't believe that it was just Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone. I think this isn't that much more far-fetched to believe that there's a conspiracy involved with Martin Luther King's shooting. With
a person who had so much influence in culture and in people that, it was an uprising. It was an uprising. Hey, you're stirring the pot. We don't like it. We're going to get rid of you. Mm-hmm. Same with JFK. Hey, you're stirring the pot. We don't like it. We're going to get rid of you.
Yeah, I think back then it was a lot more prevalent. I'll think of all the assassinations back then. I mean, mentioned Robert F. Kennedy, of course. It was a lot more prevalent for assassinations. Why were all these happening back then? You don't see it nowadays, but I think it's
the
because
most recent one was what the attempt on Reagan.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think the American people are as gullible, or it's easy to pull things off as it was back then. Back then, you didn't have video cameras everywhere. You didn't have, people spying, computer leaks, all that stuff that the digital age presents. It's a lot harder to keep that information secret.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you don't see as
Everyone
much of it now.
has a camera. Everybody has a camera. Mm-hmm. So nowadays, if something like that happened, somebody pulls out a camera, records it, and that goes right to the internet right away.
Yep.
Government can do what they can to pull it down, but people copy videos or share videos, all that stuff like that. So all of a sudden, it's just viral. It's gone from one person knowing it to hundreds of thousands of people knowing
within minutes.
Within minutes.
Before they can be pulled down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And copying it, once it's out on the internet, it's everywhere because people download stuff. And so, you can delete the original, but it's still out there.
Somebody copies it. Somebody downloads it.
So
anything.
There's no such thing as evidence disappearing now. If that film disappeared with the grassy knoll, nobody.
Well, like in the 70s, somebody requested information on Luther's or Dr. King's assassination and the Ku Klux Klan connection to it, and the FBI came out and said that all the files had been mysteriously destroyed.
Speaking of the KKK, there was a man who claims his father was possibly the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, and there's also the ballistics testing that was done was always inconclusive with the Remington Game Master gun that Ray allegedly used was
what's the easiest way to denounce evidence? It's inconclusive.
Yep.
So it's just an interesting topic, and it's one of our more serious ones.
Yeah, this isn't as much fun as we usually have. I mean, it's assassination of an important person, and especially in light of everything going on around our country right now. It's a tough topic.
It is a tough topic, and we kind of want to end it on a serious note. We've had fun all season long.
I found the name.
What's the name?
All right. Church minister Ronald Denton Wilson claimed his father, Henry Clay Wilson, assassinated Martin Luther King Martin Luther King Jr. King James. Oh my goodness. There I go with the Bible stuff.
Or LeBron.
Yeah. So he So he claims that it wasn't a racist thing. He thought Martin Luther King was connected with communism and wanted to get him out of the way. But it's also been reported previously that his father was a member of the KKK. So there's that tied to the KKK there.
Well,
and then there's, suspicious stuff there.
More suspicious stuff. But I think that's all the time we have for this season.
I think so. Maybe since we're talking Martin Luther King assassination, maybe we'll come back with JFK.
We might come back with JFK. We're going to take a couple weeks off. We got some big stuff in store for you guys when we come back for season 2. We're going to start letting get you guys more involved, and we'll explain it later at a later date of what exactly we're going to do. We'll put out
like a mini thing preview.
We could do like a mini preview and explain how you getting involved is going to happen.
And help us make this show even better. So if you love Don't Shoot the Messenger and you don't want us to get shot, if you'd rather hear our messages, we'll let you know how you can help. So, and one of the ways you can help now is sending us letters. Let us know what you think of our show, comments. You can also
tweet at me, email Jinx, comment on our show.
Yep. It's sayhi2jinx@gmail.com, and that's the number 2.
And my Twitter's @cdickens88. And as always, don't shoot us.
Yes, we're just the messengers. Don't believe everything you hear. Make your own decisions.